Hey, darlings. So, this is the special gift that I have for you. I told you last week that I was going to be introducing you to Sabin, my Pilates instructor. I'm going to let Sabin introduce herself to you, but I just want to let you know we're currently inside the Pilates studio just to give you a look. Sabin can tell you a bit about the difference between the machine that's up and the one that's on the floor. But this is for you to consider Pilates in your workout. It's one of the best things you're going to do if you're really going to develop a strong body, mind, and take on life. Without further ado, Sabin. So, Sabin, tell us who you are and what makes you a pro.
Well, I'm Sabin Morris, and I work here at the Capital Athletic Club as the Pilates director and one of the instructors in both mat Pilates and Pilates on the reformers, as well as the towers. Our program is one of the earliest here in Sacramento. We're 21 years old, going on 22. Mm-hmm. And we want our people to be on the reformers and doing the mat work because we really believe that Pilates is an integral part of your wellness and fitness programs. Mm-hmm. The great thing about Pilates is that we really focus on breathing and we engage our core, the abdominals, and the lower back muscles with every movement that we do. That deep inhalation and exhalation really gets us connected with our powerhouse. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to work out in a highly impactful way. Mm-hmm. You're still gaining muscle, developing deeper flexibility, mm-hmm. and really improving that mind-body connection where you really begin to feel where you are in space. If something feels a little off, you're going to notice it a little earlier.
Right. Sabin, can you tell us about...
It just feels great.
Can you tell us about the strength that develops with core and spine in doing Pilates?
Yes. So all movement comes from the center, according to Joseph Pilates, and that has been proven in exercise science. So he described your powerhouse as the muscles between the base of the skull, mm-hmm. in technical terms, or the bottom of your head to the lowest part of the glute. Mm-hmm. So your torso is the powerhouse, but all movement begins in the deepest layer of the core. Mm-hmm. So the muscles that surround the spine, because mm-hmm. we are a 3D being, not a 2D or 1D being. Mm-hmm. So that deepest layer of the abdominal wall, transverse abdominis, your lower back muscles, all of the erector spinae muscles that align on either side of the spine, mm-hmm. your internal and external obliques, your rectus abdominis, which is an 8-pack, not a 6-pack, as well as your hips. So when we initiate movement, the first thing that should engage is that deepest layer of the core, those abdominal and lower back muscles, mm-hmm. So that we are protecting the spine. Mm-hmm. And not just protecting the vertebrae itself, or each vertebra, but the spinal cord, because mm-hmm. that's the highway, yeah. from brain to muscle, muscle to brain.
Amen.
And so we want to keep that safe. You might have heard of someone saying, "Oh, I dropped my keys and I bent down to pick them up and I blew my back out." A lot of the time that's because our core is not strong, the muscles are not firing in the correct order. Mm-hmm. We want that deepest layer to engage so that it supports everything, and then the big muscles do the bigger movements.
Amen. So what we're going to do now is Sabin is going to show you moves on the machine, and then there's also mat Pilates. Sabin and I were just talking about this. For those of you who may want to try Pilates at home, maybe do a YouTube video, Sabin can talk to you as the pro about the difference between doing it on the reformer here in front of us or doing it on a mat. But first we're going to start on the reformer with some entry level. So there's level 1, 2, and 3. And then so Sabin is going to show you some entry level and then advanced. Is that what we're doing, Sabin?
I can do that.
Okay, great. So let's show, this is entry level, meaning the very first time you come to Pilates, these are some of the moves that they would have you do. And then Sabin, does if they were to go to a studio, the way you guys require the 3, intro training, is that like standard, or tell us about how that getting ready works?
So our program has what we call a quick start package or introductory package, where we do 3 one-on-ones, an instructor with 1 student, and we teach you how to set up the reformer for your body's specifications or needs. And then we go through the fundamental exercises. There's like 10 blocks mm-hmm. of exercises that we consider really important for the level 1 classes.
Right.
Pilates, every genre of Pilates or every piece of equipment, including the mat, is progressive.
Yeah.
So all movements have a fundamental base movement pattern, and then we bring it to the next level, intermediate, advanced, super advanced. It's a progression of that fundamental.
So is it unsafe? Like if I were living in St. Louis, Missouri, and I went to a Pilates studio out there, is it unsafe for them to just let me into class without giving me some kind of intro first?
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily unsafe because I've never been to that, whatever studio might do that. Usually you'll have an introductory either one-on-one session, at least one of those, or an introductory class.
Yeah.
And then if they aren't having you do privates before you go into the class setting, there's an introductory class or a foundational or a fundamental class. So that level is what some of us would call pre-Pilates,
Yeah.
or the very, very basic or base movements, the foundation movement.
Because that's what people need to know. It's not about the move. And I was telling people last week when I talked about you, I said it's not about the move, it's about the control and the breath in the move, right?
Exactly.
And so setting up that foundation helps them really do the move the right way. Because it's not just about doing it, it's doing it the right way, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And being familiar with the piece, because heavier doesn't always mean harder on this piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Because that's a moving item.
Right,
that carriage.
exactly. So let's show them this moving item. So these are some entry-level moves. You've never been to Pilates, your first time. Here's some of what you can do. What the teacher will have you do. You don't want to be doing this by yourself.
So one of the first, or the foundational blocks is the abdominal series, or the abdominal and the arm series, in what we call a supine position, which basically is a fancy word for on your back. I'm laying on the carriage. I'm going to grab a hold of my loops, uncrossing them, placing my hands in my short loops. So the foundational move I would use would be just an arm pull. So I'm going to imprint my spine.
Yep.
So I'm setting my spine, each vertebrae down into the mat, the memory foam, and I'm drawing the navel very deep to support it. Then I'm going to bring my knees into a tabletop position.
Yep.
So taking a deep breath in through my nose, I'm going to exhale through my mouth and just pull the arms straight down. My goal is to keep everything except my arms perfectly still.
That's right.
Which takes a lot of control.
Exactly.
So I'm working even though those areas are not moving. Now how do I make this an intermediate move? I begin to lift my head, neck, and shoulders.
That's right. Yep. And it's the control because you're keeping the spine and the core still.
My lower back is staying connected to the mat. The advanced version of this would be to lift my head on the first repetition and keep it up the whole time. How do I make it even more advanced? I start to engage my legs.
This is heavy duty. It's like strong. I'm telling you, this builds a strong freaking body from the core, honey, from the core. This is good stuff. She's working the arm. The core is making it all go. And then you see the arm strength that would get developed there, the leg strength. And then what Sabin didn't talk about is how the weight is controlled here.
So we have 5 springs.
Yeah.
They're color coded. No one ever memorizes what they mean.
I'm one of those people.
Right now I'm on the heaviest spring of all 5, the green, but because I'm only using the green, it's fairly light.
Yeah.
So I'm able to keep my head, neck, and shoulders up without straining through my neck, and able to do however many movements.
You can make it super heavy or super light.
You can, but heavier always doesn't mean better.
Right. And the teacher...
Lighter doesn't always mean better either.
That's right.
And a good example of this is I'm on this one spring, and if I go to a standing position...
Boom. Here we go.
And I'm doing lunges, let's say.
Man.
The lighter I go in the lunge, the more challenging it's going to be for me to control that carriage.
This is powerful, man. I love it.
And then if we come into a plank, the closer my feet are to the front of the carriage, the more support I have, because that spring has to stretch longer, and it creates more resistance to support me in the plank.
And the whole way, Sabin is engaging the core. You can see she cannot do this adequately if she's just letting her stomach hang out, not being intentional about engaging the core. This is how you get a strong center so that everything else functions well with you moving your body throughout the day, getting in the car, taking a shower, laying down, going to sleep, picking things up, getting in and out of your chair, your car, everything. This is really foundational, really good stuff. Okay, so you just showed us 1, 2, and 3 on this machine. Now, if somebody was on a mat at home, right? Somebody's gonna try, then what can they do if they don't have this machine?
So we're gonna pretend that this piece right here is the mat.
Okay. At home, on your carpet.
So that first move that I did, just pulling the arms, technically the mat work is the most challenging work of the entire Pilates repertoire because we don't have any support. So if I were on the mat and my neck was a little, my chest and my shoulders were a little tight, and when I come flat to the floor with my head and I'm here and it's uncomfortable on my neck, the reformer has this great little headrest. So I can lift that up and it's like, ah, my neck feels much better. Now I could place a small, like a towel, folded towel underneath my head if I were on the mat and I needed a little bit more support on my neck. But when I'm here and I'm just pulling straight down, I have no resistance, right? I'm not pulling on those ropes with the pulley and the spring, which is creating the resistance below me. When I lift the head, neck, and shoulders, I don't have that resistance coming from behind me due to the pulley. So this might feel a little bit easier. But when I'm doing the plank work, because I have the resistance, I can move in and out of that plank work, and I'm gonna bring it to the floor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here, I'm at a deeper angle. So when I was on the reformer, I had the foot bar, I was higher up. So the angle of my body, I was lifted, right? I had a larger angle. Now I'm making that angle smaller. This is harder on my body to hold. I have more, I need to support my body weight more because I'm at this deeper angle. Now when I come up and then I come back down, that's a lot more challenge. It's a bigger challenge on my core to hold my body still and make sure I'm not going into my shoulders or sagging through my hips. So we can make things harder in the mat work. We can also make them harder on the reformer.
And this is looking like yoga. So in this instance, those are yoga moves, yeah?
Those are yoga-based moves. The history of Joseph Pilates is that he had a lot of health issues when he was young. He was born in 1880, and he had rickets and asthma. And so he practiced gymnastics, different Zen practices, martial arts, boxing, skiing, and I believe he practiced some yoga. And he created his Pilates method, what he called contrology. He created this repertoire, and so it's very similar. You'll see a lot of very similar moves with different names, but the breathing is much different. The way he created his breath work was very different to yoga breathing. So yoga breathing, there's a lot of belly rising and falling.
True.
It's that hot breath from the back of the throat. Where in Pilates, we set the spinal alignment. So we'd set a neutral spine.
Right.
So a neutral pelvis, a neutral rib
Which is
cage.
all very subtle.
It is. And then we get into the natural curves of the spine as close as we can. We draw the navel deep. And then when we inhale, we pull the navel into the body. And when we exhale, we pull it even deeper. We expand the ribs out, try to expand the ribs outward when we inhale, and then pull those ribs together to really engage that core. And the core in the Pilates work involves the muscles we talked about earlier, the abdominal wall, the lower back. It also involves the pelvic floor and the diaphragm. So Joseph Pilates and his wife Clara worked with a lot of theater actors, opera singers, professional athletes, when they opened their studio in New York City in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe we're coming up on the 100th anniversary of Joe Pilates opening his Pilates studio in New York City.
Right on. Sabin, thank you so much. Are there any, I would like to share one thing, first of all, about this difference between, about the difference between yoga and Pilates, my experience. So if you've done yoga, you'll really be able to feel the difference between yoga and Pilates when you do Pilates. If you've never done yoga before, then it's worth it to even try and see which one you like better, because it really is about which ones you like better. So I just want to say that for people who either have or have not done yoga. Lastly, Sabin, if you could give people, in your experience, in your body as a teacher, right, in your body, what have been the 3 top benefits for you? I want people to understand not just what we just did here, the practical, technical pieces, but what is the return on investment? Like, what have been the benefits for you doing Pilates?
The first time I ever took Pilates, it felt very natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a former figure skater,
Mm-hmm.
and was in, took ballet for figure skating.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The first Pilates class I ever took, I fell in love with it. I just felt like the movements made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
They flowed. I liked the rhythmic beat of it. The first class I took was a mat class, and I really enjoyed that we could do rhythmic. We had a cadence, and we actually built up some heat, and I was actually sweating in the class, and I felt it where they said I should feel it. So if I was supposed to feel it in the obliques, I felt it in the obliques. If I felt it supposed to feel it in the abdominals, I felt it there.
Yeah.
The second thing is I'm a lucky recipient of some anxiety. So the breath work really, really helps me. I mean, I don't do the moves very often when I'm teaching a class in here because we only have 8 reformers, so I walk around back and forth a lot. But I do the breath work with the class a lot, and that can really alter my disposition in that I might get an email that is a challenging one, and then I come in and I do the breath work and I leave and I'm like, okay, things are going to be all right.
Yeah.
I don't let it wind.
Exactly.
I don't get into the cycle of letting things wind up in my head.
Exactly.
Because I'm using the breath work.
I talked about that last week when I said it helps with the stress of everyday living.
Yes.
Yeah, very
the
good.
breath work. Yeah, if I'm not feeling great, like maybe my allergies are bugging me or I didn't sleep very well the night before, the breath work in here will just, it's like night and day. I'll be like, oh, okay, here I am. It resets.
Yeah.
I reset where I'm at if
Yeah.
I'm not having like the most glorious moment.
Okay, one more.
It has allowed me to continue to be as active as I want to be.
Ooh, that's
doing
good.
pretty much anything
That's
I
right.
want to do, and I don't get injured. I mean, I was in a pretty bad car accident in 2010.
Yeah.
I was T-boned pretty hard, and I really believe that if I didn't do the Pilates that I do, I would not be able to do jumping jacks,
Yep.
high impact jumping jacks when I feel like it. I wouldn't be able to play on the TRX the way I do. I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, let's go on a 6-mile hike.
That's right.
And when I'm done, I'm not done for 5 days.
Exactly. So resilience,
Yeah, it
bounce back.
It restores. Yeah, it can be very restorative.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are days in here where we leave, and I mentioned we might feel that tomorrow, and some of us really do feel it the next day or a couple
Seriously.
days after. But we keep coming, and we really emphasize the stretch.
That's
we
right.
really emphasize the lengthening portion of each exercise, and that keeps us from really overtraining.
Yeah.
It's such a big compliment to anything we do outside the door.
Yeah.
So I
So,
think
Sabin, I want you to give me a treat. This is very selfish. I want you to do something hardcore level 3. Like some shit that, like last week you were like, I'm getting ready to shred y'all abs. And I was like, yeah, let's go.
I'm going to do one of my favorite moves. And I like it because it's pretty and I can do it.
Look, I won't break my neck trying to show this for y'all. Come on. It's pretty and I can do it. All right, come on,
Pretty and
Sabin.
I can do it.
Y'all, Pilates is so beautiful in so many ways, but it works the hell out of you. Look.
So this is a pipe,
Yes.
and I like to get a vertical pipe going.
Yes. Oh, yes. And if this looks easy, I love that it looks easy, but do it and it will kill you. Be like 12 of those on one side. Don't come there.
Usually we do that.
Yeah. And then don't.
That's a quad killer.
That's right. Saban just said that's a quad killer. That's right. And we stretch it out. This is so good. And remember, you keep the core engaged. Man, you will walk out of here standing so erect, ready to take on the day. Exactly. Thank you so much, Saban. That was so good. Thank you guys so much. So you can just Google Pilates and even YouTube. Do some videos on YouTube. Do it at home. But if you really like the social element, find a studio in your town and see what they offer and go check it out. Go feel it. It's wonderful. It's really good stuff. All right. Thanks so much. Mwah. Thank you, Saban. Bye, everybody.